is the head coach at St. Joe's Prep in Philly. Obviously had a great year last year and a lot of tradition in that program. And, as he and I were discussing before starting the webinar, also kind of halfway into a good year as well this year. So I hand it over to you, Fife.
Thanks, Eric. Hey, everyone. Welcome. And I want to thank Chris, Chase, and everyone for inviting me to talk to you guys today. We're going to be doing, the topic is St. Joe's Prep technique, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I was telling Eric, if I were to sit here and talk to you for an hour about the rowing stroke, I think we all fall asleep. So we're going to talk about kind of an intro to the prep, to our rowing team, how we introduce the sport of rowing to our kids, our process, the preparation that's involved, some of the drilling that we use, and then we'll go through some video and show you kind of the stroke that we're looking for. I think it's pretty simple and basic. And then we can kind of talk about more big picture stuff, and that's kind of defining success, how we do that, culture stuff. And along the way, if you have questions about anything I'm talking about, throw them into the chat or the Q&A, and then Eric will share them with me, and we can kind of go in that order. I'm kind of bummed that we're not present, like in a room where we can kind of have banter. I feel like that's a lot more informative. We're being able to chat with each other in the hallway after these presentations, or at the bar after everyday session. But I feel like these things go better when there's a discussion, not just a lecture. And I'm sure there's a lot of questions that you guys have about how we do things. I'll preface this and say, like, just because we do it a certain way is not the way you should do it. But like any time in these sessions, I always find like there's things that I learn from other coaches that I can kind of pluck away and incorporate into what we do. So if there's things you're not quite sure of, or things that I'm not addressing, feel free to throw them into the chat or the questionnaire or the Q&A, and we'll try and attack it. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm John Fife. I've been the head coach here at St. Joe's Prep for 4 years now. I'm in my 5th year. I'm a graduate of St. Joe's Prep, class of '98. And I also went on to row at the University of Pennsylvania as a heavyweight. Prior, and then after graduating from Penn, I coached the freshman lightweights at Penn for 3 years. The varsity lightweight coach at Georgetown for a year. And then prior to coming back to the prep, in 2017, I was the head coach at Jesuit College Prep in Dallas for 7 years. So it's kind of what I'm doing. I'm fortunate enough that this is my full-time job. I'm one of the few high school coaches that's all I have to do. So I spend a lot of time on rowing. So it's fun to do this. St. Joe's Prep is a Jesuit Catholic high school centered in North Philadelphia, just a few blocks from Temple. We have 904 boys, 20 varsity sports. And given the year, depending on what year it is, or what the year is like, about 80% of our students participate in athletics. And so there's a lot of options for our kids. And I say we're not an easy school. Kids don't come to St. Joe's Prep because they think it's going to be easy. So it's a benefit for us that we get very motivated young men that want to come to the prep, even before they have any idea that they want to row. And as a result, a lot of our athletic programs are successful, not just our rowing team. We started rowing way back in 1926, although some of these guys look a lot older than high school kids, but This was our first rowing team back in 1926. And our first championship was not until 1955. And then since then, we've had 13 appearances at Henley. We won it once in 2000. And then in a typical year, we have about 100 boys on our team. Typically, it's a 60-40 or 70-30 split of varsity to freshmen. And this year, I think it's going to be about 60 varsity and 40 frosh. So let's kind of get into it. Introducing the sport at the prep. We have learn to row camps. We get a lot of interest from the summertime stuff, but as far as formal rowing at St. Joe's Prep, we don't start until January of their freshman year. So actually, our freshmen they've had their 4th practice today. There's no rule that we have to do that way. We do it because we want to introduce the sport of rowing to the kids when they're gonna like really sink their teeth in and have fun. And in my opinion, it's gonna be really hard for a freshman to have fun if we start him in September and his first race is going to be like the Navy Day or the head of the Schuylkill. And nothing against those races, but we all know, a head race is not the most exciting event. So we want them to sink their teeth in when they're lining up the starting line. There's 5 other boats there, and it's very clear. If your bow ball crosses the line first, we won, right? So we start them in January, and how we do it is we don't spend a lot of time teaching rowing for the first few weeks. It's really about developing the athlete and developing the team. And so we spend a lot of time working on fitness, their toughness, and their teamwork. And what's that look like? It's a lot of running. It's a lot of like doing hills, stairs, core work, push-ups, pull-ups, all of that stuff. And everything is put in a very competitive atmosphere. So they're competing against each other. And really the month of January, we call it a month of grinding, where we really get them to be fit. And along the way, like they know they're getting fit. They feel like they're getting fit. They certainly will complain a lot. But that's all kind of wearing it all on their sleeve. So that we're trying to build the foundation first before we get into teaching rowing. We do teach them rowing on the erg a couple days a week, but it's real basic stuff, and it's more or less, getting the basics down and then teaching them how to pull hard. And freshman year is really, for us, it's all about learning how to pull really hard, being aggressive, and just keeping it real simple. We're not trying to make these kids Olympic athletes or Olympic rowers in their first year. We want to get them, being aggressive and just getting after it. So our freshman coaches do a really good job of focusing on fitness, and then, like the 2 big things, power and length. And that kind of dovetails us into what the whole team does. And like we're really, when we teach rowing, we try and keep it as simple as possible. And boat speed, in my opinion, is composed of power, length, rating. We're not going to talk a whole lot about rating today because that's simple. But it's really about power. And we put a premium on, whether it's freshman year, just learning how to grind, or sophomore through senior year, really training in a systematic way on the erg, or a little bit in the weight room, that we're trying to meet a standard that we know that if we have certain number of scores that are fast enough, we're going to have the opportunity to go really fast in the boat. I put in my PowerPoint, don't kid yourself if the power's not there. What I mean by that is, I think we've all been there where, the erg scores are not really there, or they're not very good. And we're trying to convince ourselves that we're good enough to win a championship. Unless everyone else is really bad, then it's probably not going to happen. And so we're really emphatic with our guys that, you know, in order for us to be good in May and June, we got to produce the numbers right now in January and February. And if they're not there, you know, let's not kid ourselves later on in the year that it's just not going to be there. I'm going to share you what our program is. It's going to just an example of it. It's in all these slides are going to be available to you. It's all in the Sketch app. But basically, our training it's systematic, and what I mean by that is it's the same week to week to week, and that is the guys can excuse me. The guys can track their progress week to week. And so we don't just throw stuff at them and they don't know, like, well, and how fast should I go? They know exactly what they did a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and so on. So they can track the progress. And then the other thing we talk a ton about is length. And, you know, we define, and we should all define length is not reach, how far we can reach our body. It's how long are we getting the blade in it, like in front of the pin, and how far we're actually moving the bow past the pin at the release. And like, if we can be really good at both of these things and have lots of power and lots of length and get all 8 guys to do it at the same time, it's not magic. You're just going to be fast. And I think last year we had, you know, 5, 6, 8 of guys that were all doing just that. Here's some examples of what, you know, the first couple months of rowing at St. Joe's Prep will look like if you're a freshman. You know, these kids on the left here, these are freshmen. They're running on Lemon Hill. Lemon Hill's the hill right across from Boathouse Row. You know, they'll do this for a long time. I did this when I was a freshman. I'm sure our alums that are in this video now recognize this as well. And then on the right, you'll see our guys doing erging. This is last winter. Because of COVID, we did everything outside. We moved the ergs up to the roof of the school. And this is them just learning how to pull hard. I know when I taught novices, it was a lot about making the erg just go, just be louder. There's a question in there that, yes, the answer to tanks is we do. So our second month of freshman rowing, we will rent the tanks at Penn for a week, like a full week, where we'll take them down to the tanks. And it's great because we can go down there and it's not just using the tanks. We'll split the guys up into groups where we have groups in the tanks, and then we'll have groups rowing the erg too. So it's not like we had everyone's crammed into the tanks. So we do use them. We use them primarily to get guys really comfortable with handling the oar and being able to do the rowing stroke with the water right before we get them in the boats, which is typically, you know, the second or third week of February is normally when our freshmen are getting out on the water.
Does that include the freshmen in the tanks?
It's only the freshmen.
Only the freshmen. Okay, yeah. Perfect.
So the varsity guys don't go down to the tanks at all. It's just the freshmen. Here's what we did this past month. Some of it did change because of some COVID stuff, or, you know, for whatever reason. We do adapt. Like you'll see a really intensive day on Monday, followed by a longer day, followed by an intense day, followed by either like a short fun day or steady state, and then a longer day, and then Saturday. Anyone who knows anything about St. Joe's Prep Crew is Saturday is 5 by 1500, no matter what, no matter when. That's what we do. And so the first month of training, we keep the rates pretty low. By the end, we have we did that workout this morning, and it was we did 2 opens. So, you know, you can take a look at this. I mean, all these workouts are stolen. I didn't come up with any of this, but it's what we've been doing for a long time. systematic. The guys know what's fast. They know what's not fast. And this past month, we've been able, because the weather was so nice in December, we were able to incorporate a lot of this training was on the water because the weather was nice. But this month will be primarily on the earth because it's cold and we just got to grind through it. The week shaded in orange here, that was our exam week. So what I did was those workouts, they had to do them, but they could do them whenever they want to, and just log them in with their Coxswain. And that way I felt those workouts were a little more manageable while they were doing their exams. Here's just an example. The video is not great. The quality's not great, but like these are our freshmen just battling it out. Nothing crazy about what they're doing, but this is a typical day of a freshman rower at the prep. Just at least 2 to 4 to 5H just racing. I found, and I think we've gotten pretty good at identifying the fact that, you know, we're dealing with high school boys here who are full of testosterone. Like, we want to harness that and get them engaged and have fun by doing this. It's just racing. One of the things that we do every day with the freshmen, and I learned this from Chuck Crawford, who is a former coach here. Every day we would bucket race. And for those who don't know that, it's just pairs rowing, like stern pair versus stern pair of another boat, full press. I don't care about the rating, just win. And we would keep going until one boat got a length. And sometimes you run out of river, and the guys are screaming at each other. It's a lot of fun, and it's really stable because there's only 2 guys that are rowing, and they just get really comfortable with pulling hard. Question. Yeah, we do. Someone asked that if we give the athletes the calendar of workouts during the training. The answer is yes. Each month they'll get it, and a lot of times I'll have to change it too. And that way, I never want them to feel like there's a surprise, especially in the wintertime. So they know what's coming up the very next day. They know what's coming up next week, and they can, plan ahead. I feel like training at this level, you got to be prepared. If you're not prepared, we're setting them up to fail. This is our U17-8. So these guys a little bit further on. Again, the quality of this video is not great. I promise you the quality of the video as we go on is going to improve. But you can see the basics here. Like, these guys, half of this boat are freshmen. This is last June, our U17-8, getting ready for nationals. These are half freshmen, half sophomores. It's like simple rowing. It's not great. It's not terrible, but it's getting the job done. And like, you'll see, if I were looking at that as someone who didn't know these guys, I'd say the thing I'm taking away from that is these guys are aggressive, and that's something they've learned from day one. They're being really aggressive and getting behind the oar. And then at this point in their rowing career, where it's, they're 4 months in, 5 months in, or in their second year, like, they're rowing pretty long. I mean, it's not pretty, but they're rowing pretty long. They're getting after it. And so they're able to do a decent job of moving the boat. So let's get into a little bit more some technical stuff. I think drilling is really important. but I also think everything we do with our drilling has got to be with a purpose. So I do think that once we get on the water, I want guys to dial in and not just, I don't throw them out and just start rowing. Like we start every single boat at the prep. We'll start with the same drills every day. Every boat will be feet out. We go out in sixes, and on the square, we'll do arms only for 20, arms and body. Then we'll go half slide, full slide. And we'll do each station at 20 strokes, and then we'll stop, go to the bow six and repeat it. All with a lot of focus, not just rushing through it. I'm coaching them through it and just getting to really think about what they're doing. And really what we're doing is, it's not, we're adding power here, but it's really, we're talking about length. So it's just arms. How long can we be with just arms? Okay. Now we're going to add the body. How much more arc can I get with the body now? Okay. Now we're going to half slide. How much length? When I talk about length, how long is my blade gripping the puddle at half slide? Okay. Now we're going out to full slide. How can I touch the bow ball now with my blade and hold it in as long as I can? So we go through that, both sixes, stop, we go back to stern six, and now we go at it from the stern. Top 6 inches for 20, right? Just trying to feel the pickup of the boat with just knees, right? And then once we feel that for 20, then it's just only legs for 20. Real quiet bodies, real stretched out, just pushing, right? Only legs for 20. Now we're going to add the body. How much more of the boat are we going to move now that we're leveraging with the body? After 20 of that, then we go full strokes, right? Letting the stroke come to its completion. We do that for 20, stop, then we go to the bow six. Once the bow six is done, then we go on the feather, we go all 8, and then we kind of cruise down to the bottom of the river. That whole exercise is about 2 miles. That gets us from our boathouse down to Boathouse Row. And it's good warm up. We always do it feet out. So guys really can't cheat. They're really focusing on what they're doing. It also gives me a chance as a coach, or my coaches during this time, to see what the guys need. Like, do we need more skill work, or is it pretty darn good? We don't need to reinforce. And if we do acknowledge that we need to do more skill work, okay, what is it? Let's not just do drills because we're rowing coaches and we should do drills. Like, if the guys are throwing their bodies around a lot in the warm up, okay, well, let's take some time and do some drill work where they're just pushing the boat and letting the bodies stay out of it. If they're not leveraging their bodies enough, okay, well, let's spend some time after we do our warm up and do some stuff where we're using the legs and the body, or we're just using the body and feeling the boat grip the puddle and just move the boat with just the body. So I spend a lot of time looking and listening to see what's going on in the warm up as to identify what I need to do as far as drills. And if we don't need to do drills, we won't. Typically we'll do some because it's rarely perfect. And sometimes they just need to row. Sometimes we'll get to the bottom of the river, and I'm like, okay, all 8, let's just cruise. And then I'll kind of see what they're going to need, if anything, that day. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Early in the process, just before you get further into the year, someone asked, do you cut? And if yes, what is the bar to make the team? And then how do you decide at that level, like how the boating would happen? Is it score, height, overall stroke?
Yeah. We don't make cuts. When I was a rower at the prep, we did. And that was primarily because we didn't have our own boathouse then, and we rowed out of Penn AC, and we had a roster cap. So then we would have to make cuts, and it was basically the freshman team could have X number of kids every year, and then the varsity team would have X number of kids. Since we've built our boathouse, we really have almost unlimited space for kids. So we don't have a formal cut. If kids are screwing around or they're not showing up consistently, then we'll cut them. But we don't have cuts. And I think the second part of the question was how we prioritize our boating. Was that right, Eric?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, in what measurements do you kind of look for in beginning to boat the kids? So erg score, height, measure.
Yeah. Really, it's like 90% erg scored to start with. I don't really look at height. I mean, if you looked at our varsity from last year, it had every size you could imagine. We had little guys, big guys, tall guys, wide guys. You know, they were all fast all in the erg. But they also weren't our top 8 ergs. We definitely start off with our top 8 or 16 ergs, and we try and get the best guys in the boat. But then it's really who's moving the boat. And we do a lot of stuff in 8s, but then we'll break it down in 4s during spring break, and kind of narrow it down to see, all right, these guys are close, how close? And then from there, we'll also go in and do time trials or speed orders in the 8 to find out who's moving the boat. You know, last year changed a lot of things for everyone, but for us, you know, we would our priority list of our boats would go, you know, the varsity 8, and then the lightweight 8, and then it would be the JV 8, and then the second 8, and then the freshman 8, and then we have the 4s. And the last year, because of COVID, and you know, they're not really being a lightweight 8, we kind of shifted our focus completely it was first 8, second 8, third 8, fourth 8, fifth 8, or sixth 8. And that a lot of that was because we were not just typically doing the local, you know, the Manny Flicks, which is our local regattas. We were going out and racing mostly clubs, and they're racing, they're going 1V, 2V, 3V. And honestly, I loved it. It was so easy, you know. The best 8 guys were in the 8. The next 8 guys were in the second 8. Next 8 guys were in the third 8. I didn't have to like pull guys out of like who I thought could make weight or who couldn't, or who was age eligible for the junior 8 or who wasn't. It was just really simple. And you know, it did stink to lose the light 8 because we have a great tradition of lightweight rowing here at the prep. But we had really good lightweights in all of our top boats. You know, our bow pair of our varsity were lightweights, at least they used to be. We had at least 2 or 3 guys in our second 8 that were lightweights. And then, you know, at Stotesbury, we kind of moved things around because the events there are a bit different. But that's kind of how we do it. And we really start with the ergs. And we talk to the guys a lot in the wintertime, like now, like we say it constantly, like selection for the spring boats is happening right now. Like if you're not pulling the right scores, I don't care how good you row, you're not going to be in the mix for the top boats. Okay. So more of the nuts and bolts. What I'm looking for is horizontal, flat rowing. So I don't nitpick a ton on individuals. I used to. I don't do it a whole lot anymore. I'm really just looking at the boats that are out in front of me, and I'm just talking to them about how I want them to row, and just flatness. And what I mean by flat is no lift at the body, no grabbing with the arms. It's just long and flat. So if I drew a straight line on a video of them rowing, just a straight line, like their shoulders are going straight on that line, or their neck is going straight. There's no up and down, right? And if you do that well, you know, you're not going to see any up and down of the bow or the gunnels. I was listening to one of Casey's talks this morning. We're talking about, you know, he's talking about some crews that do this, you know, pause at the finish or a gather. And if you've seen our crews, they do a pretty pronounced gather or pause. We do a lot of pausing at the finish. My reasoning is a little bit different than what Casey was talking about. I find with high school kids, they're in such a rush and they're impatient, especially boys, that just they don't want to finish their stroke. They want to take the next stroke. Their minds are always on what's next, not what I'm doing now. So we do a lot of pausing at the finish, and so you see them rowing, and it's like almost they're stopping. It's like, yeah, we collect, but to me, it's we're letting them complete their stroke. I talked to them a lot about letting each stroke come to its natural completion. And then the other thing I talk a lot about is being patient. Now we can talk tons about being patient on the wheels, like, you know, slide control. That's definitely something we talk more about with the freshmen. I talk a lot about being patient at the ends. I want them to be patient at entry. Like, take as much time as you need to let that blade get into the water, right? And then at the finish, take as much time as you need to let the stroke come to a conclusion. And so that's basically what we're talking about here. It's flat rowing, keep it horizontal, keep it long. I talk a lot about being long through the middle of the stroke, and really that's just me tricking them to not break their arms. As soon as you break the arms, you're kind of shutting the stroke down. So I'm trying to keep, I talk to them a lot about holding bend on the oar for as long as they can through the middle of the stroke or the meat of the stroke. And then just being patient, like let it happen. You start getting ahead of it, then it's not going to be great. We do pausing at the finish so much that we do it when we're practicing our warm up for a race. We're practicing our starts. Everyone, they start with we do, like, you know, our first 5. Each stroke is going to be paused at the finish. You have full pressure, full speed, pausing at the finish, because you've all been in the starting line of a high school race, and you see kids that, like, they take their first stroke, and like before their arms are like halfway broken, they're jacking that blade out, and they want to take their next one because they're in a race, and they feel like if they take more strokes, they're going to win. The reality is, if you complete more strokes, you're going to be in a good chance to win, not just going out to take more. Being soft, probably not what you think I mean. Being soft at both ends. I talk a ton about being really soft and delicate at the entry. Like, let the blade just like quietly sink into the water. You try and jam it in, you're going to miss the water. Like, so I talk a lot about it, and I don't do a whole lot of drills for it, but I talk a lot about just being soft, like be delicate, like pretend like you're like you're petting a puppy, just letting the blade sink in. And then again at the finish, like, be gentle, like take the blade out and let the boat take over. So and then everything in between that, between like soft at the entry, soft at release, full contact. I talk to our guys a lot about our rowing is full contact rowing, just getting after it. And I think you'll see in some of the videos, like they're getting after it, they're enjoying it. But they've gotten pretty good at being softer at the ends. This is our varsity 8 last spring. This is a couple weeks before youth nationals. And this is them just, they're rowing outside arm only, continuous all 8, which is a challenging drill. This was them, like, if you're not rowing flat and if you're not being patient, this is going to be a miserable drill to do. But I think they do. You can see their arms are real long and stretched out here. They're not in a rush to break the arms. It's not perfect. The boat's definitely going to bobble around. You see, there's nothing abrupt here about how they're putting the blade in, and there's nothing abrupt about how they take it out. It's soft. So now you can see in that video, they were like a little bit pensive, like a little bit nervous, but they were doing a good job. Now I'm letting them have both hands on. Now they're able to get after it a little bit more. Their confidence has gone way up now that they have both hands on. Again, letting it, each stroke here is coming to its conclusion. No one's rushing to take the blade out, which this takes practice. Like this didn't happen the first time we did this. We practiced this a lot. And then, kind of full contact stuff. This is an opening minute where they're getting after it, and you'll see going upstream here. These guys are on about a 48 here, getting out of their puddles. And this is just full contact, but they've drilled enough that they're letting each stroke come to its conclusion here. And what these guys would do really well, and not just this crew, but all of our crews, like we've talked a lot about, we talked a lot about full contact here, but we would talk a lot about selling out early in the race. And you can see that those guys are doing a lot of work to get the boat up to speed, and it paid off. I mean, all of our boats would get some margin pretty early on. But again, that all came from power, and that all came from what we were doing in the wintertime. It's kind of earlier in the spring, but it's kind of just base work with our top 3/8 here. And this is a different situation. Like the second and third boats are always going to try and knock off the top boat, so they're probably cheating a little bit. But these guys are being a little mature, and again, being soft at both ends. It's got pretty windy here. Again, you can see we talk a lot being long through the middle. These guys hold on to their outside arms stay locked out for a long time, and they're really able to just lever the boat away from the puddles here for a long time. Then this is kind of the last video of our varsity, I think. This is us training in England after we got out of our quarantine. And this is kind of, I feel like the things were all kind of really clean. This is super soft entry, super soft release. And I like doing the quarter feather because it forces them not to just tear the blade out. They have to actually hold the blade in as long as possible. Yeah, I know for some of you the video might be choppy. You can go into the sheet in Sketch and you'll be able to like see it whenever you want. So again, if you have questions about technical stuff, throw them in Q&A and I'll address them now. We're running low on time, but let's see.
We got about 15 minutes.
Yeah. Question: do you have a definitive preference on drive and recovery sequencing? Not quite sure what you mean by that. If you want to be more specific as to what you're looking for there, well, I'll come back to that.
You might mean like, do you guys feel like you teach an elongated, like sequential stroke or an overlapped kind of opening of the spine? Oh, there you go. Where do bodies open up on the drive? Boom.
Yeah, yeah. That's good, Eric. I kind of talk about it being a sweet spot, like you got to like feel it. So I don't say like at this point you got to open up. I talk a lot about hanging. So if you can feel the hang, like your body's naturally going to begin to pry against the push, you know, probably a third of the way through. But I don't want them feeling like I got to start ripping the body. I want it to feel like I'm hanging my body off the handle for a really long time. And if you talk about that enough and you teach it enough, like they won't start lifting, they won't start to grab. Because if you talk about, I want you swinging, that's what they're going to do. I want them to just hang. And I think you just got to talk them through it. But again, I think if you talk more about like, okay, I want you swinging here right at this point, then that's what they're going to think about. Honestly, what I talk a lot about is just the rowing stroke is one long push. So we enter the blade, we enter the blade at the catch, we begin to press. We want to keep that press going as long as we can. But obviously our legs are only so long. So we use the body, we use the arms to keep that press going as long as possible. And let's do it as cleanly as possible. Hopefully that answers your question. Defining success for us, obviously we want to win races, we want to win nationals, all of that. But I talk and my coaches talk a lot about, we start with the little things. If we can do the little things correctly and well, then we're going to have a chance to be successful. And what are the little things? Well, for us, like, you know, our guys would tell you like how we carry the oars down to the dock. What are we wearing to practice? Like, is it like, are we ready for practice? Do I have a water bottle? Like these little things, like, oh, that's not a big deal, but we make it a big deal. So like all these little things are important. How the oars sit on the dock are really important. Because if you do the little things to prepare for the big things, you're going to have some success. You know, I say here, like every win is a team win, every loss is a team loss. I've really, it was really important for us in the last couple of years to get away from this like one boat idea. That is, we're all, if I'm in the, third eight, I'm only interested in my result. Well, no, for us, it's, we're the third eight is successful if the 1V is successful, the 1V is successful if like the 4V is successful. And we want everyone to celebrate in each other's successes. And when a boat or guys don't succeed, the other guys are there to rally around them and help them be a success. And I got a lot of this. Before COVID, I was able to get around to other coaches around the country, riding their launches. And one of the greatest things I've learned in the last 5 years as a coach was spending a little bit of time with Steve Gladstone at Yale. And it wasn't so much what I learned being in the motorboat, although I learned plenty. It was just the energy that I saw from the guys. From the minute they walk into the boathouse, it is they are on fire. Like they're so happy to be there. They're being boys with each other. They're having fun. And so my takeaway, I remember driving home from Derby every time, and I'm like, I need that in my boathouse. I need the guys to come down just wanting to be there. And so we create some stuff where it's all about team. It's all about being down there together. If you're down here at the boathouse now, like you're down here at 3:30 in the afternoon when the guys are here, like we have a stereo upstairs, and the minute they walk in the door, that thing is bumping, and the guys are just like bouncing off the walls to go out and row. And they know it's going to be hard, but they're just really excited to be there. They're excited to be part of each other's successes, each other's journey. It's really, for them, it's about the process. Good question. What do you focus on with coxswains? Coxing on the Schuylkill is a nightmare. At 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the afternoon on the Schuylkill, you can probably walk from the east bank to the west bank without getting your feet wet. There's so many boats. So I focus a lot on our coxswains on two things: being confident and being aggressive on the river, being able to navigate and not have practice be disrupted. And two is learning from the coaches, and learning not just what the drills are, but learning what I'm looking for, what I'm listening for, and what I want to achieve, but also eventually getting to the point where they're like one step ahead of me. So that's what we focus on a lot. Fortunately, I've had several coxswains on my coaching staff to help them learn how to steer. Obviously, if you're steering on the Schuylkill, you almost get good at steering by default, because you have to learn how to do it right. Otherwise, you're going to get run over. Video, I do video, and some of my coaches do more of it to critique. What I do is I take a bunch of video, and we have a shared Google Drive for the guys, and like I'll dump everything in a window. It's like grouped up by month, so they can go back and look. I don't do a ton of critique of video. I learned this from I think it was Steve Gladstone as well. Like, he doesn't like showing guys bad rowing on video. I kind of like that. So I do share with them a lot of good rowing. So if I'm scouring, I'm looking around, whether it's on Instagram or YouTube or whatever it may be, and I see something good, something that I like the way they're rowing, then I share it with the guys, either in a group text or in email. And I feel like as athletes, if they're studying that, they're going to want to emulate that. And I did a lot of that last year. And I think the guys really spent a lot of time looking at good rowing, and I think it helped. Here is a great example of, and I'm not trying to like brag, and hopefully you guys can see this. I know some of the video was not great. This is our team right before the varsity shove for the Stoats. not a single guy on our team, and we filled out every sweep event. The whole team stayed. And I just don't think you see a whole lot of this in our sport, where the whole team is like rallying around each other's boats. So I don't know. To feel your whole team feel like they got your back. It's pretty good. A couple quick questions here. when having a practice that is below standard, what is your go-to drill or piece to get them to shake off the last effort? Honestly, last year was a great year, but we had plenty of bad days. I would go to guys that I trusted. Whether it be our stroke man or our coxswain or our captains. And I would ask them, like, what do you want to do today? Like, what's going to help you guys shake it off? And they'll know, like, it may be, let's do 500s, or let's do a steady state row, or, and sometimes they needed a day off. Like, they may be just a little fried, or, so I spent time like trusting them, and they would know what like they know what they want, and they just got to get them to tell you. And it may not be the best thing for your training cycle, but it's way better to have them engaged than like feeling frustrated for another 3 days. Next question is, over the years, besides toughness, what would you say contributes most to championship squads? It's a couple things. One, I think, is numbers. I mean, I think the fact that we have a lot of kids rowing makes it very competitive amongst our team. And I think history. I think our guys want to live up to the past. And I think our guys are really committed to being accountable to each other and to the numbers, and numbers being the ERG score. I mean, they know, and beating into them, they know, unless they're making the numbers, we're not going to be fast. I'll speed this one up. This is just another example of the team being together. This is our varsity 8 coming in after they won Stokes. Speed this up. The whole team's there. This wasn't the varsity 8 winning. This was the whole team. So I thought this was a special moment for our team. This wasn't just 8 guys. This was the whole team. Another question.
That's pretty awesome. Genuinely, Fife.
That was really cool. When we came back from getting the trophies, the whole team had devolved into like a party. People, they were all jumping in the river, and everyone was there. It was cool. I think it's great. It's great when it's more than just the 8 guys. Another question: do you tinker with rigging throughout the season, or just set and forget it? Every single boat in our boathouse is rigged the same. So if you're rowing in the 3rd freshman 8, it's rigged just like the varsity 8. Now there are some things where I'll make adjustments, especially with the top end boats. Like if I need to make some adjustments on height or on inboard or outboard, I'll do that. But I really try and keep everything the same. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions or anything in the chat? Pretty good on time.
We got a good one from Wallen here. You don't need to answer this question. I'm not going to read it out loud. You could read it out loud if you want.
Mike Wallen from Chicago just wants to know what the second best Scholastic team of all time. Man, I don't know. I will say we did something this year which was kind of cool. We won the senior 8 and the senior 4 at the Stotesbury, which is really hard to do. And I look back on the trophies. Last time anyone did it was 1968, and that was Washington and Lee, coached by Charlie Butt Sr. That was kind of a cool thing. That obviously Washington and Lee is one of the best high school teams in history. So they're definitely up there. I'll just throw Holy Spirit in there as well.
There you go. Very diplomatic way to put that. Thank you. What do you want for erg average in 1V and 2V?
We do a lot of 6Ks. We only start doing our 2Ks in February, but I know most people are going to relate to the 2K. Last year our 2K average in the 1V was right over 620. So if I can have 16 guys that are 636 and below, we're in really good shape. As long as like the top end we got some guys, in the teens or below, and most of the varsity 8 guys are 620s. I mean, last year we were fortunate that we had not a bunch. We had two or three guys that were really fast ergers that didn't make the boat. I mean, I wish they did, but they made everyone else around them better. Yeah. I mean, those are kind of the numbers, and we had. I don't have it in front of me now, but we probably had, I want to say 12 or more guys breaking 21 minutes. That's a sub 145 for 6K last winter, and one guy breaking 20.
There you go. That's a good indication of your speed right there.
Yeah.
That's a great endurance too. Well, John, we really appreciate it, man. This has been great. Like I said before we even started, I requested to be your MC because I really wanted to see your presentation and appreciate everything you said and your transparency, even just about the program itself, not just how you row. But best of luck this spring, and I'm sure everybody in here feels the same way. And a big thank you. So
yeah, thank you guys. And if anyone has questions, my email, my phone number there, feel free to reach out anytime. And I'm happy to hear suggestions from you guys as well. And best of luck to everyone.
Great. Yeah. So you guys, I'm not going to put it in the chat because it's in his presentation. So if you just want to check out John's presentation, his contact info is in there. So great. Thank you. Everybody have a great Saturday.